Flip. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am delighted to introduce to you Brendan Locke, who is here to share with you perspectives about home, sort of digging into our concepts, personal concept of home. And he has some really interesting ways to think about this that I hope will encourage you to think about your own perspectives and thoughts about your connections to this word. And then we're going to build on that next week. So I'm excited. Please welcome Brendan.
Thank you, Jen. Can everyone hear me okay with the clip-on mic? That's good. So welcome back. I'm one of the LCs this semester, but I have class at this time across the street in Osmond, so that's why you haven't seen my face yet, except for my lovely lab over there. So today's topic is home, and we're going to start off by passing the mics around to answer the question, what feels like home to you? It's a pretty broad question, but hopefully take a second to think. What are some things that feel like home to you?
So for me, home is more about people than actual physical location. You could definitely live somewhere and not like who you live with, so it won't feel like home. May or may not be speaking from personal experience, but I think home can also be a feeling that you give yourself. So maybe in a particular class, or if you really enjoy your job or something like that, or if you like love your car or something like that, like it can be an environment that you like feel like safe when you enter.
So a place where you feel safe and with people that you like there as well is great. Go ahead.
I was gonna say for me, like home cooked meals are really important, which I know that's not a big thing in everyone's home, but for me, like even with friends doing like a Sunday family dinner or something like that, like to me, that's like a big thing of like what home feels like to me.
What's your favorite home cooked meal?
Um, my family, we're Italian, so when we like make raviolis and do like wedding soup and just like, I don't know, just like comfort food or any soup. I love soup.
Thanks.
I think home to me is that feeling of like, it's not necessarily a place that was said before. I think it's that feeling of like overwhelming sense of peace and comfort and a spot where like I can genuinely just be myself. I think I would describe it as like a moment when I'm just sitting in the rain and just like reflecting on anything, or if I'm have my headphones in and I'm like my mind is clear and nothing else is bothering me.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. We have time for one more. Can do right over there.
For me, home is like being around people who like light up when I enter the room, like people who really respect me and are like who are there for me. And people like and what's familiar. That's home for me too.
Thanks. So we heard a lot. People that you're connected with, a place that maybe you are or not connected with, and just a general feeling of being at home, that peaceful feeling. So let's see what the dictionary has to say. A house, apartment, or other shelter that is the usual residence of a person, family, or household, and the place in which one's domestic affections are centered. Neither of those really say anything about the connection that you feel in a place that feels like home to you. Home is different to each of us in this room. And when we hear the word home, we might think some positive things. We might think of our home cooked meals and those that we share our home with, but we might also have some negative feelings. Really fits that whole spectrum of positive, negative, and everything in between. So what do we do in BiSci 3? we started to explore our connection this semester. So our connection with ourselves, our connection with others. So your lab group and in some of your journals may be writing about how you feel connected with others. And our connection with the environment. This is an environmental science course, so hopefully going to discover quite a bit how we as individuals in a collective connect with the environment. So for the sake of today, we're going to adjust that pretty lackluster definition of home, this one right here. And we're going to say that home, in a broad sense, is a connection to yourself, a connection to others, and a connection to the environment. And the environment, in this case, can mean a great many things. It could mean your actual house, it could mean maybe a place where you feel that feeling of peace. So, pretty broad definition for today. So now we're going to explore this definition of home, but through music. I have a really hard question. Raise your hand if you have ever experienced nature. Ever in your life. Wow. What a surprise. So many hands. Awesome. Now, raise your hand if you have ever listened to music. You enjoy listening to music. Awesome. Well, we have two things in common. That's pretty important, and it's such a good place to start. Home. So how did our ancestors come to find their home? So we may be more indebted to birds than we know. This is from Gordon Hempton, known as the sound tracker. He researches sound all across the world. This is from his podcast, Bird Note. Hearing is vital for all animals' survival, but what is the ear listening to? So I was curious about the human range of sound. We listen from the very low frequencies of 20 hertz to very high frequencies around 20,000 hertz, but we aren't equally sensitive to all of those frequencies. There's this narrow bandwidth from 2,500 to 5,000 hertz that has the resonant frequencies of our auditory canals. So that's where we have the most sensitive hearing of all, is within that frequency range. Somehow, that part of our hearing was listening for something, and our ancestors developed that super sensitive hearing for something specific. And as it turns out, the vast majority of all birdsong fits within that frequency range. So if we have that super sensitive hearing, why would they have to hear faint birdsong over long distances? Why would we develop that sensitive hearing that would match up with the birdsong? So if we come from a nomadic ancestry and we hear birdsong, we're hearing an area that has food, it has water, shelter, and likely an extended favorable season for the birds to raise their young out of the nest. So birdsong is prosperous for the habitats of us as humans. To put this into perspective, spoken English is about 100 to 200 hertz. So falls quite outside that range of our super sensitive hearing that birdsong falls into. We are connected with Earth. That's what this shows us. Music appeared very early on in the human experience. Archaeologists have discovered bone flutes from about 60,000 years old. So in the time of Neanderthals, they were carving bone. It was found in a cave. And that went on and on for a very long time, these bone flutes being discovered, as well as remnants of ancient drums throughout history. Music is often said to be a universal language. And perhaps it was one of the first ways that we communicated with each other. Now we're going to do a quick listening. So before industry and technology, what would we hear? So I'm going to ask you to tune into your sense of hearing. So close your eyes and open your ears while we listen. So I'll ask, as we listen to that, what did you notice and wonder and think as we listened? And then maybe what changed as you started to hear human-created sounds in the mix? So we can go ahead and pass the mics around. So what came to you while we listened to that, and how did it change?
I mean, wow, very soothing. And then it kind of got to a point where I didn't really know what was going on. I heard some kids and maybe a little bit of deforestation, but it was very soothing.
What was soothing about what we listened to?
The water and the birds.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Maddie, we have one down here.
I thought it was soothing until there was like that big boom. I don't know if it was like a car driving by or something, but then I kind of felt like I was in a horror movie. So
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty shocking. I would agree. Let's do one more.
I thought it was interesting that it introduced a new bird sound that wasn't originally there. So like introduction of not invasive species, but not native species. I thought that was interesting to include in the audio.
Yeah. I'm not too sure. Jen would probably know better than me all the birds that we heard, but it definitely changed throughout. So hearing the human impact on sound in the environment, I think is a pretty interesting thing, and it's maybe not something that we pay attention to, especially walking around campus when the hustle and bustle is kind of constant. So how does music connect us with nature? We listen to maybe an impact that we can have on it, but how does music connect us with nature? It's been shown that contact with nature while being creative is a very effective way to increase that nature connection. There's loads of studies on it. They're all very, very interesting. And there's programs across the world that hope to strengthen this connection. There's a program in Saskatchewan, Canada called Songs for Nature. It's about like a week-long program. You go and do walks through the woods, mindfulness activities paired with music and songwriting that culminates in this final performance that is very interesting how you can take art and combine it with nature to feel that deep connection. And art is intertwined with nature. If you think through songs that you like or paintings, I would guess that at least one of them has a connection with nature. So we're going to go ahead and do some more listening. So Claude Debussy, 19th and early 20th century composer, is known as really spearheading the Impressionist movement in music. And he composed a lot of his music based off of water. So the piece that you're going to listen to a bit of is called Reflections in Water. So I'll leave this on quietly in the background as we pass the mics around. Listening to this, can you hear the inspiration of water through his music? Did anything come up while we were listening to this?
Like with the other video, when it started, I got really tired. I was like, my head like fell into my hands, and I was like, okay, I'm starting to really relax. And like a lot of the notes, like they go so well together, and it just feels like everything is flowing, and it sounds like water.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. It feels like it's flowing, and I think it's a pretty accurate description. So next, we have another piece for piano by Olivier Messiaen, who's kind of a wacky avant-garde French guy. He composed a lot of music inspired by birds, but in a very literal sense. So this piece is supposed to mimic the black-eared wheat ear. So we'll just listen to a little bit of this one and hear the influence in a more literal form. So I think it's really interesting to hear the comparison between the influence of water and the flowing of Debussy's piano music with Messiaen's kind of bizarre sounding interpretation of the literal sounds of the bird put onto an instrument. Next up is someone that you may have heard of before. His name is Pete Seeger. He is a very influential environmentalist artist who helped really spearhead the folk revival movement of the 50s and 60s. And he's kind of known as the man who helped clean up the Hudson River. So this song is pretty literal. So listen closely to the lyrics. Still that interpretation and music connection with nature, did anything come up for you? Hearing it presented concerns about pollution in the Hudson River. We have a hand over here, microphones.
Personally, I live right on the Hudson River, and it's disgusting. Like you shouldn't really swim in it. And like we do something called the polar plunge, like you go into the Hudson. Not fun. So I guess like that song was written so long ago, and yet the same issues are still occurring, even though there's been so much time in between.
Yeah, and through, thank you for sharing that. That's so close to you. It was really neat to have that perspective. There's a lot of conservancy work throughout the Hudson, and it really shows how much of an impact we can have in either direction, positive or negative, on the environment. See if we have one more hand somewhere. So next on our list is Joni Mitchell, another name that you might recognize. Also a very, very, very popular folk artist. Late 60s, even through present day. Big Yellow Taxi is one of her songs, has become somewhat of an environmentalist anthem. She wrote it on a trip to Hawaii after being struck by the view of the airport flying in to Hawaii. So we'll take a listen to this. I think it's safe to say that the list of music and art being connected with nature never really ends. And I challenge you, moving forward from this week, pay attention to the art and the music that you're consuming and see if you can figure out where its inspiration comes from. Everything in nature has its own harmony and rhythm. Our heartbeat, which is the central rhythm to our lives, is what sustains us. So how does music connect us with ourselves? Development, early childhood and onward, there's a lot of impact that music can have. That's why music education is so important in the schools. It can help improve your imagination and your creativity from a young age, can assist with the understanding of abstract concepts. So using music as a tool to piece together extraordinarily complex emotions is something that can be done as a tool with therapy. So creating playlists to reflect your current emotional state and use it to reflect. Music can have a great influence on your identity. I think often the music that we listen to can reflect our values and beliefs in the world and in ourselves. So using music to really find yourself, that's something that a lot of artists talk about. Music therapy as a tool for treatment for cognitive decline is very commonly used with patients with dementia. It kind of fits in that part of the brain that comes out in those moments of clarity, and tapping along with a song, something that's really special to see, and it's really great that that connection can continue on. Can have good impact on our emotions as well. Who here listens to music and it makes them feel pumped up and happy? Maybe you have your go-to run, gym playlist. Yeah, lots of us. Maybe you're going through a hard time and then you have your really sad song playlist. Also, who has one of those? Yeah. So we can use it to reflect our emotional state, and we can use it to connect with maybe one that we're striving for as well. And that can lead us to have pretty strong connections with specific pieces of music, specific songs. For me, I have an extra strong connection with a few songs. The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell being one of them. It was one that my dad sang to me as a lullaby when I was a kid, and I attended Shavers Creek Summer Camp here in State College, and it was always the final wrap-up to each week of camp. It was the whole camp would sing the Circle Game, and then I ended up working there and being able to lead that song and kind of follow me through life, just how the song goes as it follows the character of the song throughout their life. So what is a song that you really resonate with, a song that holds a special place in your heart that you connect with? So we can go ahead and pass the mics out. Maddie, we have one in the front.
Just Remember I Love You by Firefall. It's an older song, but whenever I'm feeling down and I'm talking to my mom, it's my mom's way of saying like, hey, just remember it's all going to be all right.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Blackbird by the Beatles. It was my grandparents' favorite song, and we'd always play it growing up.
So lots of good memories with that song. Thank you.
Are You Bored Yet by the Wallows? Because me and my best friend, we met through their music, and we ended up having listen parties after every album came out, and we ended up going to the concert together.
Awesome, thank you. So some common themes that are starting to come up, I notice, is people that you're sharing that music with. Might be your friends, your grandparents. And for me, I shared a place that I have a connection to from a song, which I think starts to line up with our idea of what home is. So let's try and dig a little deeper. Does anyone have a song that comes to mind that connects them with the environment, which, remember, can be a specific place? It doesn't have to be nature as a whole.
Amanda.
Movement by Hosier.
Savannah, why does that connect you with the environment?
One of the lyrics of the song says, "Shake like the bough of a willow tree," and I had a contemporary dance to that I choreographed, and that's the first one that I thought of.
Awesome, thank you. Maddie, we have one behind you.
Do you guys mind passing it through?
I really like Hey Soul Sister by Train. There's this big park by my house, and that's like I have a playlist I listen to when I bike around the park, and that's always the first song.
Awesome, thank you. So lots of connection with this music, which is really great. Sorry, did you have the mic?
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
I really like Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. A few years ago, I was in a choir that did an arrangement of that song as well, and I grew to really love it from that.
Thank you. So we've talked about music connecting us with the environment, music connecting us with ourselves. So next is, how can music connect us with others? I said earlier that music is sometimes thought of as a language. And throughout the world, there's ways that the language that is used kind of resembles music in a pretty striking way. So in Les and Canaries and Turkey, there are languages that revolve around whistling to communicate. So communicating over long distance without words, whistling, which if we were to listen to it would probably sound strikingly similar to birdsong, which I think is pretty interesting. Yodeling, which can be used to call herds of livestock, so communicating with others, as in other species as well, and also just communicating between alpine villages. Languages throughout Africa that utilize clicking tones to communicate. Tonal languages throughout Asia, such as Mandarin and Thai, where the pitch that you are speaking at can change the meaning of the word entirely, meaning completely different words as well. The use of drumming as a language, so communicating in your community through drum circles. Up here I have a photo of the jazz musician Chet Baker. Jazz music as a language. There have been studies done on those musicians, and when they are trading back and forth improv solos, the same parts of their brain light up as if they were to be having a conversation with each other while playing their instruments. Daniel Levitin, a neuroscientist and musician, he says that the musical brain is what assisted in creating human nature. In his book, The World in 6 Songs, while explaining social tensions in large groups, so we as humans have the largest social groups of all primates, that to relieve social tensions in the early days of humans, that synchronous, coordinated song and movement were what created the strongest bonds between early humans, and that this allowed for the formation of larger living groups in society as we know it. So thinking to maybe a more modern connection with that statement, a place where we might be singing and moving together. Could be a concert. Who here has seen live music, been to a concert? Lots of us, that's great. Who has been to a Penn State football game? Wow, that's great. So, is there singing at Penn State football games? Yeah, quite a bit. So, we're going to pass the mics out and share an experience where maybe it was at a sports event or at one of your favorite concerts. What did that feel like in the moment, singing and moving with maybe thousands and thousands of other people all at the same time?
Last week at the football game, I don't remember what song it was, but the song like ended and people still continued singing and you could hear everyone all around. And that was like a really cool experience.
It's a pretty cool moment, right? We have one at the front.
Going back to what I said about I went to that Wallows concert with my best friend. We ended up getting lucky and a security guard came up to us and gave us free pit tickets, so we got to go to the pit. And throughout the entire night, we were just surrounded by people singing the same songs as us, moving the same way as us, like jumping around. And even in that entire collection, though, it felt like we were the only ones there because even though we were all connected through the music, I don't know, it just kind of felt like a surreal experience to where it felt like I was the only one just like in that moment.
So feeling very present through that experience. I bet if you were to ask anyone, most people that shared that experience with you, they might have very similar feelings to that. So listening to music and singing together has been shown in many studies to directly impact the neurochemicals in your brain, many of which play a role in that feeling of closeness and connection. So next up, we're going to do just that, and we're going to sing as a group. So I have the lyrics up on the screen here. And hopefully everyone can hear the guitar all the way in the back because I don't have a microphone for that. So we're going to do this song in kind of a repeat after me style. I'm going to do a demo where I sing both parts, which is going to be a little silly. So hopefully that makes you super stoked to join along. So in the middle of every line, you're going to repeat back what I say, and I'll go like this. You know it's darkest before the dawn, before the dawn. This thought keeps me moving on, moving on. If we could heed these early warnings. The time is now, quite early morning. Does that make sense? That sounds great. Lovely voices. So, I want to hear your beautiful singing voices. Baisai is no longer a 9 a.m., so that means everyone should be awake. Oh, it's darkest before the dawn. This thought keeps me moving on. If we could heed these early warnings. The time is now, quite early morning. We could heed these early warnings. The time is now, quite early morning. Sounds so good. Sing it louder. Some say that mankind won't long endure, but what makes them feel so doggone sure? I know that you who hear my singing can make those freedom bells go ringing. I know that you who hear my singing can make those freedom bells go ringing. And so we keep on while we live until we have no more to give. And when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old guitar, young one stronger, and when these fingers can strum no longer, and the old guitar, the young one stronger. Yet though it's darkest before the dawn, this thought keeps us moving on through all this world, joy and sorrow. We still can have singing tomorrows. through all this world, joy and sorrow, we still can have singing tomorrows. As though it's darkest before the dawn, this thought keeps us moving on. If we could heed these early mornings, time is now, quite early morning. If we could heed these early warnings, time is now, quite early morning. I think that needs a round of applause for you guys. You sound incredible. So I know it's time. If you have to run, that's totally cool. But if anyone really wants to share how that felt, I'd love to hear it. So, oh, we have 5 minutes? Oh, I'm so sorry. This is what happens when you're not in lecture every week. Well, then I definitely get to hear how that felt. So we can pass the mics around and tell us what that felt like. It's probably been a while since you sang like that. LC Molly has something. Do you want to stand up?
Okay, we're good. That was so fun. Oh, no, I don't want to stand up. Hey guys, I'm here. That was so fun. I might just be a music student, but that was so fun. And everyone looked so happy. Like, I know you can't see each other, but I saw all of you, and everyone was like, these early morning, like everybody. So that was so cool.
Thanks. Anyone else? We have a hand in the back, I think.
I mean, I feel like for most of us, I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like it was like pretty uncomfortable at the beginning, just to kind of be asked to sing on command. But I think as it went on, like I became a little bit more comfortable, and it felt kind of relaxing by the end. So
Thanks. That's really nice to hear. What made it uncomfortable at the start? Besides me just telling everyone that we're going to start singing.
I don't know. I think it's just like, you kind of are put on the spot to do something, especially if you are self-conscious about the way your voice sounds, or you're maybe just not really a singing person. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take one more.
Just thought it was really interesting how people started singing once the page turned. Like once people were able to laugh at it, like I noticed more people started singing then. I like people just felt more comfortable, I guess. So I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Something to break the ice a little bit.
Yeah.
They even beat me to the words. That's pretty cool. So thank you all for joining in on that. We have a few final announcements before it is actually time to go. So first up is Shavers Creek has the outdoor school program. The application deadline to be a counselor is this Sunday, September 14th. It is, I think, one of the best experiences and opportunities that Penn State has to offer. I've been lucky enough to do it a few times, so I'd strongly recommend it. Next is our first extra credit movie, which will be Wednesday, September 22nd in Thomas Building 222. This will be at 6:30. So this is one of your extra credit opportunities for this class. Next up is the Canvas discussion due this Sunday. Many of you I've seen have already done it. So keep rolling on that. Make sure to get that in. And lastly, an announcement from Bronwyn. And this is not showing up anymore. Oh no. It will be sent out in a Canvas announcement. You can go paint vinyl records and other art classes taught by Penn State students. Bronwyn, do you have anything to say about that other than do it?
My class personally is Wednesdays from 5 to 7, but there's a lot of cool stuff like pottery, stained glass, a lot of cool things. And if you guys are doing art, want to hang out, good. Let me know. Yeah. And then we'll send out a message.
Thanks, Bronwyn. All right, and it is now actually time to go. Thank you, everyone.